thank you, Dave. Good job pressing start on the Facebook Live button. Folks, welcome to the staff room. Rick Bronson here from the comic strip with our headliner this week. Very excited to have her here. Just back from our sister club in Minnesota, the House of Comedy. And here she is, folks. I know you've never felt these videos are pretty enough with just me in them. So here she is, the lovely, the talented Kate Quigley. How are you, Kate?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I've never been to Edmonton.
Welcome to Kent. Well, first of all, have you ever gigged in Canada before, or is this your first official Canadian gig?
I've never done stand-up in Canada. I've worked events here, though. I used to work as like an event MC. So I used to travel.
Like trade show kind of stuff? Or?
I did do some trade shows, but I did a lot of sports stuff. I would do sporting events for NASCAR, Sports Illustrated, Heisman. Like the Sports Illustrated had this thing called the Heisman Tour, where I'd go to different college football games and I'd interview Heisman winners and stuff. It was.
So
really
how did that bring you to Canada? No, we don't have a Heisman-worthy college in the country. We
Yeah,
don't even have the Heisman in Canada.
I know, but there was
I don't know. Do
something.
Canadians even know what the Heisman is?
No.
Dave, you have no clue.
No,
the Heisman Award is given to the top collegiate football player every year, and typically the tradition is that the most famed Heisman Trophy winners, which is this famous pose, by the way, the Heisman Trophy, always it's a kiss of death. It's like saying when you win,
they never make it in the NFL.
If they have bad shit happen.
Totally.
Like O.J. Simpson won a Heisman, and things were a little weird for him.
Yeah, you're right. But it went great for him.
You know what they equated to comedically? They used to equate it to the Johnny Walker competition, which was a San Francisco comedy competition, where the first place person no one ever heard of, and people that came in second in that competition were Robin Williams. I believe Ellen DeGeneres came in second on. Like there was all these amazing second place winners that are megastars. But
that's so crazy.
So was that your background? Did you study communication in college?
Actually, I went to school for acting, so I always wanted to act. I always did act. Like growing up, I did theater and stuff like that. And then I went to college in Chicago. I was planning to move to LA. Like from when I was a kid, I wanted to turn 18, move straight to LA.
Where was home? Chicago was school, or was that home as well?
Ohio.
Okay, we're in Ohio, because that's a big ass state. A lot of big cities in Ohio.
It is. I grew up in near a town called Canton, which is not a big town.
Home of the Football Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
It's a very football conversation.
I know. I was so raised on football. That's why I have an affinity for football players. I have a problem.
And by the way, guys, I'll put this out there, and don't swipe right because it's not Tinder, but she's looking for a good man. All right.
Yes, a good man.
Apparently,
preferably tonight.
Kate was telling me when she got in here tonight that she has a proficiency for finding some bad guys.
Yeah. I've actually been talking about it in my act because I was telling Rick that I went to Minneapolis, and right before I went to Minneapolis, I proclaimed on my Facebook, I wrote 2 paragraphs about how I'm going to start dating nice guys. I'm done dating assholes because I'm addicted to assholes. Like I love them so much, not the body part, like the person. And I want to find a nice guy. So I got to Minneapolis. I'm like, I'm going to find a nice guy to hang out with in Minneapolis. And I went and sat down at the bar and started talking to a hot bartender, the first guy I met. And it turned out that he couldn't hang out with me because he was on work release from jail. So,
That's right, folks. Those are my employees at the House of Comedy in Minnesota. So,
I wasn't going to say where
you
work.
It's fine. It's all right. It's okay. We're just, that's how politically correct we are as a Canadian business owner in America, is that we don't look at color, we don't even do background checks. If you've been to jail, if you stabbed a man, you can work for us.
It's fine.
Yeah, we're good with that.
You know what? I really like the idea of dating a guy, though, who's in jail, kind of. I do.
Less pressure?
Yeah, well, I started thinking about it. I'm like, he definitely can't cheat, at least not easily. You know what I mean?
Well, if he does, you don't want to hear about it. Let's be honest.
Exactly. And when he gets out, I just feel like he'll be so grateful to have someone, and he'll kind of owe me, so he'll stick around longer.
Well, you could always get into one of those drawn-out prison writing relationships where you can go in and get married in prison if you.
Dude, I signed up for a dating site called Meet a Prisoner.
No, you did not.
Yeah, just for fun, because I have a podcast about dating, and I thought it's called Date Fails, and it's all about bad dates. And I thought, what could go worse than trying to date a prisoner? So I signed up.
So in the category of comedians that are really trying hard to write new material and what to do that, there's what you do.
There's what you do.
So then how does a nice girl, because sorry for kidding you, apparently a nice girl like you, I've heard nothing but our common friends in the industry, Ben Glebe, and today J. Chris Newberg passes along his hellos, always say nice things about you. How does such a nice girl who was college educated ends up as the, and we're going to talk about this because I teased it off the top, as the host as the Adult Video Awards, the porn awards, really, for lack of a better term, the AVN Awards.
Actually, so I think basically how that happened is, well, it's twofold. Number one, I host a TV show on the Playboy channel. It's all about like weird sex. So when they first approached me to host the AVN Awards, they were like, we like you because you kind of have this sweet, innocent way about you, but also you have this fan base of people that are into like kink, and we feel like the porn stars will relate to you.
Okay.
And that was part of it. Also, though, there was a guy who used to work at Showtime. This was years ago. Long story short, Pauly Shore tried to set me up on a date with this guy who he's buddies with, who used to work at Showtime. I don't think he's there.
Pauly Shore's trying to pimp you to his friends
Yeah.
at the porn industry. All right, gotcha.
No, he works at Showtime, not
Fair
in
enough.
porn, not in porn. But so anyway, Pauly tried to hook me up with this guy. We went out one time, and it was just, there was nothing really there, but we like stayed in touch, and
for amicable, but nothing romantic is what it's going to be.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and then we stayed in touch, and then that was years ago, and then they kind of were keeping an eye on me for the AVNs, but I just wasn't really ready or wasn't really right that year, and then this year came around, and they were like, hey, we think you're ready to host, do you want to do it? And I was actually nervous to do it, just because I was like, oh, I already host this show about sex, and I have this podcast about dating, and it might be too much sex, but then, I looked at the comics who have done it.
Big comics.
Yeah, and I was
Attell,
like,
you mentioned Dave Attell did it.
yeah, and Stanhope, and so I was like, you know what? Why not? I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna try to do it in a way that I don't come off as like an expert on porn. I'm just gonna be myself, which is pretty stupid when it comes to all of that. Like, I know nothing. I really don't know anything about porn still. After the awards, people would come up to me and be like, who won for blah blah blah, and I was like, I don't really know. I wasn't really paying attention.
I'm 47 and I still always say on stage I don't know anything about sex. For years I thought a French tickler was just a really annoying guy from Paris. That's all I thought. I think you're the perfect. I don't think you need to worry about being typecast because you do stuff about dating already or something. I think what from their appeal, they probably see a very girl next door looking, kind of the quintessential girl next door Americana.
Yeah.
And then fronting this crazy but wild industry. I think that dichotomy is just interesting enough. But where was your first, like, how did you get to that position where you were even going from being a, because it's a lot different being just a presenter and talking sports and doing the Heisman, going around to colleges, and actually having to go in front of a room full of 300 strangers, find commonality between the 300 and make them laugh with jokes.
Well, I always wanted to do something in comedy from when I was a little kid. Like, I would watch sitcoms and stand up, and I was like, I want to do that someday. And when I moved to Chicago for school, I did improv. And I liked it.
Did you do it at the famed Second City in Chicago?
I did. I took classes at Second City. I performed more at I.O., which was Improv Olympic at the time.
Yeah.
And, comedy, sports. I did all of that. And I liked it, but what I didn't like is I didn't like that I wasn't in total control of like everything that's happening. I think comics, a lot of us are control freaks. Like, we want to control the room. Yeah.
Comics are the ones that always on their elementary school report cards it said does not play well with others. Should not be in the sandbox with other children.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or most likely to kill someone.
Yeah.
That wasn't a category, but I added that.
And I think still debatable. I'm still in the running.
But so I moved to LA, and as soon as I got to LA, I was like, I'm going to do stand-up out here. I just decided to try it. And so I actually started doing stand-up before I was traveling, doing all that emceeing. I did stand-up for just about 2 years. But I mean, like...
Where was your first set?
At Acme Comedy.
In Minnesota?
No, in LA. There's a school. It's like a
comedy
school.
Okay. Do you remember it well? All right, let me ask you this. Did it go okay, or do you feel like you ate it looking back on it?
No. Well, I mean, actually, it's funny because the other day I found the tape of it.
You recorded it.
And
wow.
I watched it. And I was like, God, that wasn't that bad. Like, I was shocked that it wasn't.
That it was better than you thought.
It was better than I thought, but also, I mean, the way that I did stand-up is I took a class. This is how, and I tell like people all the time, like, I don't think there's any shame in this. I was scared to do stand-up for whatever reason. I've never been scared to get on a stage and do anything else. Stand-up is different. You're
way different.
You're like naked, basically, right? So I took a class. It was 6 weeks, and basically the whole point of the class is like doing 6 weeks of open micing. You get on stage and you talk every week, and by the end of the 6 weeks, you have like 6 minutes. and then there's a showcase. So my first set was that showcase, really. So that takes all the pressure off because you've been working on it in front of a class. The showcase is all your friends and their friends.
So the support structure is pretty good.
Audience, yeah. So that was my first set. But I would say the first time I did a real set where there was pressure was I did a bringer show at the Comedy Store.
I'll explain a bringer because we're talking industry terms here. So a bringer show, folks, is common in a lot of big cities in America, especially New York and LA, where there's so many comedy clubs and there's so many sets in a night that comics only get stage time. They only get put on if they can convince 10 or 12 of their buddies to come and watch them perform.
It's the worst thing ever.
It's the total whoring out of the comedy industry.
Horrible. I did like 3 of them and I was like, I'm done with these. I can't do it. Because what happens is you're hitting up your same 10 friends over and over like, please, I know you're spending a lot of money, but I need to get on stage. Can you come see me again and laugh at my same shitty jokes?
And right,
like,
after the second time they come to see you, they're quickly no longer your friends, by the way. They've defriended you on Facebook. And, they're no longer in your lives.
But I think it was my first show at the Comedy Store. It was in the main room, which is a huge room, you know. And I'm back in the green room, and there's all these photos of all these like people that are like icons,
famous comics.
And I'm waiting to go on, and I'm supposed to be next, and in drops Michael Richards, and he comes back in the green room and says hi, and I think I was like 24 or something. I mean, I was a kid.
Was this pre the crazy rant or post?
Right before, like that week.
And if you guys remember, this is Michael Richards, Kramer from Seinfeld, who went on a not so much Black Lives Matter kind of rant at the Comedy Store, is all I'll say.
Yeah, that's right. It was a couple days later that happened. But so he went out and I had to follow him, you know? And so, like, I mean, when you're like, you've been doing stand up for like 5 minutes and then you have to follow. That happened to me another night at the very beginning with Dave Attell. I had to follow Dave Attell when I was like a baby.
But you know as well as that happens to everyone in every comic, no matter how big they are, they all have that story.
Yeah.
I had to go on after Chappelle at JFL.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
but
and that was
crazy.
Yeah.
But you know the cool thing about Attell, I love telling the story because I feel like I owe him. I did that, and that was like years ago. And then I ran into him a few years later at the Hollywood Improv, and he not only remembered me, he was
remember the evening.
He was like, you were funny, you had chops, I watched you. I didn't know he watched. I thought he left. And then he like introduced me to the booker at the Improv, and he was like, you should bring Kate in here to host.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was so like cool of him. So I feel like he's part of the reason that I ended up getting like past the Improv because Attell like vouched for me.
So is that what you call that, the home room for you now in LA when you're up there working? Or what's your workout room? Is it the Laugh Factory store, or do you try to hop around?
It's more the Laugh Factory. I mean, I get more stage time at the Laugh Factory, but for sure the Improv is really good to me also.
Okay.
Comedy Store, I get on maybe like once every 2 weeks. So.
It's funny how that changes as notoriety continues, which is undoubtedly what you're going to see with Miss Quigley to my left here, because of the Playboy TV show, the fact that you're hosting the AVN Awards, potentially working on your own show. I won't say which number. Let's just say a 1 hour special. So a lot of big things on the go. Is there a project out there right now that you want to share with us? Anything that's exciting? That's
cool stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Well, one is actually my podcast, Date Fails, which is just a podcast, but like it's like my favorite thing that I do. It's so funny.
And you have great guests on it as well.
I have great guests. I mean, I've had Brad Williams. I've had
just had our mutual friend Harlan Williams on.
Yes, Harlan is on this week. He was so great. I've had Cat Williams. I've had awesome people. John Lovitz.
How was Lovitz to interview? I mean, let me be straight up. Is it easier when you're a pretty blonde girl trying to get something out of him? Because I talked to him and two fellow Hebes, you figure a couple of Jews wanting to just shoot the shit. I couldn't, it was
hard.
Stone.
Really
like pulling
hard.
teeth.
Well, the thing about John is that his comedy is in that awkward timing thing that he does, but that doesn't necessarily translate well when you're podcasting.
No.
But he's always
dead air on a podcast does not work as well as when you see someone live and they can throw in a subtlety with a facial nuance.
Yeah, he was tricky. Kat is the only guy I've ever had on who I was actually nervous because I'm such a huge fan of Cat Williams, and I had never met him, and it was like he'd never done anyone's podcast. I got him because a good friend of mine was opening for him on the road and asked him, and he said yes. And so I was so nervous. When I go back and listen to that one, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even sound like myself.
But I would be willing to bet, without having even heard that, and I will go back and listen to it, I'd be willing to bet that if he's set up with the right question, he's going to give you a 10, 15-minute long
Oh,
answer
yeah.
on his own.
Oh
Kat.
yeah, he was amazing. I mean, the funny thing about Kat is I was like, so are you single? Are you dating? He's like, I'm not single or dating. I keep a stable. He keeps a stable of women. They live in a house, and he just has.
And that wasn't the answer you were looking for. From Blackman, you were looking for, I'm on a prison release program. That's what you were looking for.
If he said that, I probably would have married him. But yeah, I mean, he told me some crazy shit, man. He was great. He was great. And also I'm developing a show with Sam Tripoli, and
another comic strip and House of Comedy headliner,
Yeah,
great guy,
yes.
and you guys would have seen him on the why am I blanking? Chicago actor, his tour.
I don't know.
Toured with Vince Vaughn.
Oh, the
Wild West Comedy Tour with Vince
Comedy
Vaughn.
Tour?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
There you go. I've been in the business a long time.
I love Sam.
Stuff
He's
is
the
in there.
best. Yeah, so he and I have been pitching some shows around, and we just got a deal for one, so we're really excited.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, here's the one question. Everything else I just kind of riff, as you can tell, when I'm interviewing people. But this is one question that I've asked every comic. And do you have a favorite joke, not yours, that you heard another comic say where you said to yourself, I wish that was my joke. It is perfect for my voice. It was just, when you hear something,
Yeah.
you go, oh, God, that's such a good joke.
My good friend, one of my best friends, Jody Miller, has a joke that she does where she says a guy asked her to give him a hand job, and she's like, what did she say? She's like, who asked for a hand job? And he's like, what do you mean? How do you like to give a hand job? And she's like, with my mouth, because I'm a grown-up. Which I think is the best joke. I just love that joke.
That's a very funny joke.
Yeah.
Folks, Kate Quigley is at the Comic Strip all this week. Tune in tomorrow on K97 with Terry and Bill.
Yeah.
She'll be on K97 for the hour from 8 to 9. And then additionally, you're off to Arizona. Is it next week?
Yeah, next weekend, Arizona, Scottsdale, House of Comedy.
Phoenix, yeah, it's actually considered Phoenix,
Oh, it's
but
Phoenix.
it borders on Scottsdale, but
Yes.
it is in Phoenix. So for Canadian snowbirds or Minnesota snowbirds that might be going to check on their properties down in Phoenix, although it's 120 degrees. It's a little warm, not going to lie. Kate will be there next week, but comes here this week in Edmonton, all this week, and she drew the short straw. I like to say as an added bonus, I'm going to be emceeing all this week. Yes, that's right. Somewhat out of my wife has forced me out of retirement. Apparently, I've been golfing a little too much, so I'll be here working on some new stuff and probably rehashing some old stuff that's going to feel new to me because I haven't done it in so long. But Kate, thanks so much. I'm excited to have you here this week. It's going to be fun, and any nice guys out there, come out and say hi.
Please.